Stop the insanity. Get your focus back onto what really matters in life. Your faith, your family, your finances, and your future. Sit back, listen, and change the trajectory of your life. You are listening to the Money for Life podcast. Let's welcome your hosts, Teresa Kuhn and Rick Sapio.
Hello, everyone. This is Rick Sapio calling you from my office. And this is an interesting podcast because I decided to do this one alone without my partner, Teresa Kuhn. And this is a subject that I've been talking about for more than 25 years. It's called the new profit paradigm. And it's a way of looking at business and I would say looking at life in order to accomplish the values that we talk about all the time in this program, which are simplicity, probability, and leverage. It's a tactical way to put those values on the ground in your business and in your life. And you can use the new profit paradigm formula for anything. So we're going to get right to it. I want to start us off today with a quote. I love quotes, as you know. And here's the quote. It's by Jean Houston. She says, "The universe is holding its breath, waiting for you to take your place." That's the quote. The universe is holding its breath, waiting for you to take your place. And how I see that is the universe is waiting for you to figure out what your purpose is, figure out what your values are, write them down, talk about them, make them come to life in your business and in your personal life. And what happens is you start creating, I would call it magic, but really it's alignment is the best way to say it. And the new profit paradigm is a way, once you have those things in place, for you to accelerate them. So again, we're all about simplicity. So let me get right to the new profit paradigm formula. And if you look at your screen, there it is. You'll see a P4 on the left. You'll see an equal sign. You'll see an up arrow and a down arrow, an R squared and an EV. Let me tell you what those mean. If you're listening, I'm going to try to create a vivid picture. If you're watching, you've got the picture right there. So it's not really a formula. It's just a way to memorize the key components of the new profit paradigm. And basically, it has a P with a 4 next to it. What that means is that your business, your income, whatever is providing wealth to you and your family, relies on 4 things, 4 Ps. And that's purpose, that's profit, you got to be profitable, right? That's people, you got to have in our view, a focus on having great people in your life, in your personal life and in your business life, and cutting out the toxic people. And then the 4th P is planet. And what that means is have a focus on your community. There's a company that took off years ago. There's many like it, but I remember Tom's Shoes. Every time somebody bought a pair of Tom's Shoes would give away a pair for free to someone in another country that couldn't afford shoes. So that was a way for them to give back. So the 4 Ps again are people, profit, planet, and purpose. I did it in reverse order just to see if you were paying attention. So let me go through them slowly. So if you don't have a purpose statement for your business, you're never really going to know if people are fully on board. So that's the first important P. The second important P is you've got to manage your business to be profitable at all times. And I know startups often have periods where they don't have profitability. And that's why what we're going to talk about on the right side of the formula. But you got to focus on profit. You have to have good financial engineering in your business. And that's keeping track, obviously, and having some good accountants and a CFO. The next P is people. So when you talk about people, when you look back at other podcasts that we've done, we want to have rules-based decision-making and values-based decision-making. These are all ways to keep simplicity in your business and keep the toxic chaos that many of us deal with on a daily basis with family members and friends and employees and contractors, etc. And then the last P is finding a community-oriented focus that your company's giving back to the planet. That's the 4th P. So I covered that pretty good. Um, these podcasts are meant to be short and tactical and have you put this information on the ground immediately. I am not going to go back to those 4 Ps anymore. You have them. And that's enough information for you to understand what it stands for and maybe get with your team and say, how do we create an orientation and processes and thinking and put this on the ground around those 4 Ps? All right, let's move to the right side of the formula. And again, it's not really a formula, it's really a representation of how we want you to look at business to make it easier to have simplicity, probability, and leverage in your life. And to review those values very briefly, simplicity is keeping everything as simple as possible. That's the purpose of this podcast, to make your life simpler, not harder. Probability is doing anything in your life, whether it's with your kids or your business or your health or your workouts or your relationships with, uh, for example, doctors and whatnot. Um, we want things to have a high probability of creating and establishing a um, clear path to the objective. So a lot of times people take on tasks, objectives, new businesses, new relationships that have a very low probability of success. And how do you increase that probability of success? You talk about it. You ask if it aligns. You ask if this is going to create chaos and toxicity. So first value is simplicity. Second value is probability. And these are operating values that you can operationalize, i.e. you can tactically put them on the ground. And then the last value is leverage. And it fits into the other two. And leverage is simply taking things on that are leverageable, meaning they already enhance an existing relationship, an existing way you're living, an existing geography, an existing patent that you may own, or an existing process that you have. Oftentimes, companies and families take on new things that don't leverage anything. They just have to kind of start over to absorb this new activity into their life. So simplicity, probability, and leverage. Um, and so the right side of the formula on the top, uh, uh, I'm going to put it back on the screen for you to see for those that are watching this podcast. There's an R with a 2 next to it. And that R with a 2 stands for revenue, but the 2 stands for recurring revenue, or some people call it reoccurring revenue. So however you say it, recurring revenue is every aspect of your business should be oriented around not hunting and catching new clients every month, but instead it should have recurring revenue. And when we look at businesses, we look at businesses that have a large component, more than 80% of their revenue is reoccurring revenue. And what that means is long-term contracts. It means plans that last a long time. It means monthly payment. You can see with a lot of technology companies, there'll be small monthly payments of $10 a month to $500 a month for service contracts. And in many cases, much, much more than that. Many large growing companies have understood the fact that you need a recurring revenue component. So you're not starting the beginning of the month every month and saying, "Ugh, where am I going to get my clients from?" And this works in almost any business if you're open-minded, positive, and willing to explore and be strategic. I remember the story of a realtor who said, how can a realtor have recurring revenue? If houses are selling, they make money, and if they're not selling, they don't. But I know one realtor in particular who created a pricing service where anytime a price, anytime a home sold in a neighborhood, that price was texted out to all of the neighbors within a mile of that house, saying, I just wanted you to know that this house on this address sold at this price on this date. And that service ended up being a small price per month. And they ultimately built it to thousands of people. But what happened from that recurring revenue model, which is quite clever, is houses started being listed with this particular agent who thought of this recurring revenue idea. So let me underscore this. Any company can figure out how to create a service plan of some kind that creates recurring revenue for the business. And recurring revenue comes into your business, whether you're working or not, whether you're awake or sleeping, whether you're on the beach in Italy, whether you're home, it doesn't matter. So the R squared on the top of the right side of the formula stands for recurring revenue. All right, let's look at the bottom of the right side. It's got an E with a V next to it, and you've got an arrow pointing down. So the arrows represent expenses. You want to focus on your expenses going down, at least relative to your revenue. So as your revenue goes up, your expenses as a percentage of revenue is going to go down. So there's a V next to it because you want to make as many expenses as possible variable. So many people don't do that. They get into business, they sign long-term leases that are expensive as opposed to leases that are a percentage of revenue. There's so many commercial realtors now, commercial real estate owners that instead of signing long-term fixed leases, they may be and have been open to percentage leases, meaning if your business does well, you pay more. If your business isn't doing well, you pay less. It's variable. It's variable based on how the company is doing. And all kinds of expenses, even employees can be variable. You can pay employees based on commission or based on how the company's doing. You can have all your expenses in marketing is a great example of an E with a V. So many marketing companies have fixed costs every month, but you want to find a relationship with a marketing company that is so committed to your business and helping you grow that if they win, you win. If you win, they win. Meaning, instead of saying to a marketing company, we'll just pay you $5,000 a month for your expertise, you figure out that your revenue per client is $5,000, say, and you say to them, we'll give you a fixed percentage of every client you get for us. And now that marketing company, instead of just focusing on getting $5,000 a month, they're focused on how do we win? How can we get hundreds of clients for that customer? Because we know based on the deal we cut that we're getting 20% of the revenue we create. So in the example I used, a marketing company, instead of saying it's $5,000 a month, you may potentially be able to negotiate 20% of the revenue. And if your revenue is 5,000 per customer, 20% is $1,000. And now you have this marketing company thinking, how do I get hundreds of clients, thereby making hundreds of thousands of dollars for the marketing firm? So most expenses can be moved from a fixed expense, think fixed salaries, fixed rent, fixed lease payments, to variable, meaning they're lower if the company is doing poorly and higher if the company's doing well. And therefore, you create an ecosystem of all of your expenses being tied to the success of your business. In these podcasts, Money for Life, our goal is to give you really crisp, tight, clean information that you can put on the ground immediately. And all of the things that we talk about, Teresa and I, are simple and easy to implement. But we want to tell you this stuff because we really passionately want you, from a values perspective and from a purpose perspective, to excel in the 4 areas that Money for Life is constantly beating into the ground. And that's faith, family, finances, and future. We want your future to be so much bigger than your past, regardless of your station in life. I don't care if you're the wealthiest person in the world. This information can be helpful because you can put it on the ground and have more freedom and more peace in your mind. Because oftentimes we've all found that money doesn't solve issues. And I've traveled all over the world and I've seen the happiest people in the world are oftentimes the poorest people in the world. Then they come back to America and we're the land of plenty and we see a lot of miserable people. So the reason for this particular podcast is we want you to have clarity and simplicity in your business life. Never forget the new profit paradigm. Have an awesome day.
You have just experienced Money for Life. Implement these strategies today and create a life by design. Have a blessed day.